Welcome to the MPFFU podcast. The intent and purpose of the MPFFU podcast is to support the mission to improve wages, working hours, and working conditions for its members. This podcast will disseminate evidence-based relevant information, resources, and strategies. To accomplish this, the MPFFU podcast will provide reliable, factual, and actionable information that strengthens, empowers, and supports the MPFFU members and locals through united action. Now our host, Jeff Lassers.
Hello everyone and welcome to episode 3 of the MPFFU podcast. I'm Jeff Lassers and I've been a firefighter paramedic with the West Bloomfield Township Fire Department, Local 1721 since 2004. In this episode, I sit down with Scott Bala, who has a long history and depth of experience as a professional firefighter and an active union representative at the local and state level. Scott recently retired from the Roseville Fire Department, Local 1614, as a Battalion Chief with 30 years of experience. Scott is currently the 6th District Vice President and the Chairperson of the MPFFU Political Education Committee. Like it or not, politics plays a huge role in our professional life, and Scott is here to help us understand why and how the MPFFU actively participates in the election process by endorsing candidates that support our core issues. In this episode, Scott will help us appreciate the value of understanding the role and function of the MPFFU and its locals. Then he'll describe the role of the MPFFU Political Education Committee, as well as discuss key considerations for the upcoming elections in November 2022. We finish off the conversation with Scott's recommendations regarding how MPFFU members can get informed, educated, and involved with the Political Education Committee and its initiatives. I really enjoyed my time with Scott, and he has taught me a lot. This has turned out to be a nice, clear, concise, and informative episode that provides our listeners with a great overview of the MPFFU Political Education Committee and what it does. Remember, this is only our 3rd episode, and there is always room to improve, so please email us your feedback and tell us what you think about the show, or send us ideas for future episodes to mpffupodcast@gmail.com. Also, check out the new MPFFU Instagram account at m.p.f.f.u. And finally, please subscribe to the Michigan Professional Firefighter Union YouTube channel, where you'll find all sorts of funny and informative podcast content. Thank you, and enjoy the show. All right, Scott, kick us off. Who are you? What do you do, and where do you do it?
All right. My name is Scott Bala, currently the 6th District Vice President of the Michigan Professional Firefighters Union. My background, though, was with the Roseville Fire Department. After 30 years, I was fortunate to make it to retirement just 2 short weeks ago.
Right on.
So retired as Battalion Chief, worked my way up. So retired Battalion Chief out of the city of Roseville, Local 1614.
You did 30 years there. I'm doing 30 years where I'm going to be. I'm 18 in.
Nice.
Any advice now that you're 2 weeks out?
Well, keep going to work. Keep loving the job. In all seriousness, I know we laugh and joke, but just got to keep giving that same good attitude. It can get hard sometimes, but keep finding new challenges.
I keep telling guys, let's turn the TV off and focus more on what meals we're having that day, because is there anything more human than sitting around a circle or a table and eating food?
Yep.
It's awesome. That's my favorite part of being a fireman, eating and talking.
So I just try to come in with a good attitude every day. I know it's hard. It can be a grind, taking all those medical calls, but if you come in with a bad attitude, it's just going to make it even longer and worse.
Yeah, there's morale and there's attitude. You might not be able to control the morale of your department, but you control your attitude.
Yep,
and that's what I try to remind myself every day. It's not always easy, but at the same time, it's a pretty good job, and I got some really cool people that I'm with.
Yeah.
Scott, one of the other things you do is you're chairperson for the Political Education Committee. But before we get into that, let's start a little higher view, 30,000-foot view. Why should I, your general MPFFU member, care, appreciate, and value our locals and our actual state union?
Well, we'll start with the value that the entire union brings to you as a member. And that starts with, we'll start at the bottom, go right from your local, the state, and then the international. And the value is the camaraderie is great. The T-shirts are great. We all have fun with that. But the real value is the betterment of your workplace and the conditions. We always have the big sayings, wages, hours, working conditions, right?
Right.
And that is really at the core of everything we do. And so the value for the individual member, driving the truck, taking those medical calls, is to do their job and provide a safe work environment, fair wages, good pension, health care, and to have your back. In Lansing with the politicians here, because that's what drives our wages, hours, and working conditions, and our ability to provide those things that the locals negotiate starts in Lansing. with the ability to have collective bargaining and things like that we'll get into more as we get into the Political Education Committee. But it is about those things, about the value of the union, why you pay dues. Not paying them just to put the sticker on our car. It means a lot more than that. And it's about the benefits and the protections, actually, that all three levels of those unions provide. Again, the local, state, and international level all have a different role in providing those protections for you, the members, and helping you have a successful career to get to retirement.
Right. It's a united front that
That's
represents our specific labor abilities to assure that we all get the most. You know, what's the old famous line? Same circus, different clowns, right? And that's you hear that a lot in any industry. Couldn't be more true in the fire service. That's why I love the gig. And there's a lot of things that are the same, which is why it's so important for us as locals to band together for our local needs, for our districts to band together for our district needs, for our state to band together, and so on and so on, because at the end of the day, on the granular level, the calls come in. We go out. We need to have a good wage. We need to have safety nets all around us, whether they're physical, financial, or emotional. And we need to be able to get to that retirement and actually enjoy it. And without that, it becomes a fractured, disproportionate focus on how to achieve those things.
And we're a trade union. I think sometimes people forget the word. We think of the skilled trades and the trades unions of electricians, plumbers, carpenters. But at the heart of it is we're sit here in the office of the AFL-CIO here in Lansing, that we are part of a skilled trades union, labor organization.
Right.
And we have skills.
So it's interesting. So thank you for that 30,000-foot view. That's certainly a nuanced approach to that. Now, specifically, your background and why you're here today is to talk about the MPFFU Political Education Committee.
Correct.
What is it?
So just what it sounds like, political education. I think it used to be called political action. So we kind of morphed those two things together, political education and political action, because really getting involved with politics is about action. We need to educate our members about the actions that we need to take. Right. So officially it is Political Education Committee, one of the standing committees that the MPFFU has, made up of currently 11 members. Typically most committees are between 8 and 12 members. Our committee has 11. I'm the chair. We have a vice chair and then 9 other committee members. We all work together as a team to work for you, the membership out there. Our biggest goal is to educate you about why is there a need to have political action and why are we involved in politics. And again, that goes back to some of the things we touched on earlier about wages, hours, working conditions, protecting those rights we have here in Michigan. It's our job, our mission to get that word out to you. Because if I'm a new member walking in, maybe I've never had any union background. Maybe my family was never in a union. Quite a few of our newer members, because of the decline in the labor movement overall in the private sector, they may have never been exposed to being part of a labor organization, part of a union at home, where 40, 50 years ago, everybody was part of a union. Their parents were part of a union. So it's our job to educate the members about the importance of belonging to the union and what that union activism can do for you and why it's there. And it's also then to also encourage people to raise money. And we'll get into that too, because politics takes money. It's just the reality of it, really. However we view it, to get our foot in the door, to get our message across, it's not only just having that good message and shaking hands and coming up to Lansing and meeting and greeting. The people that are friendly to us, firefighter-friendly politicians, well, they need to be elected. Well, elections cost money. And so our job is to not only educate our members about the value of being politically active, about the need for us to contribute to our PAC funds at all three levels.
Okay, so your committee is tasked with the gathering and dissemination of information that has to do with the political environment in Michigan.
Correct.
So really, it's identifying those that are in line with MPFFU core issues and objectives, and then saying which of those candidates, not parties or affiliations or clubs that they're in, but which of those candidates basically check the most blocks on our core issues, right?
Exactly.
Okay, so for that type of thing, so it's really maintaining political knowledge and integration of local, state, and the federal level. But really, we can talk about the federal level, but in all reality, this is Michigan. We only really have access to our state people, right?
Yeah, and we do have access to the federally, the nationally elected people through our U.S. House Rep, U.S. Senators, those members. But I don't want to say they're not important. They're very important at that federal level. But, you know, we've got to start here in Michigan because it's much harder to get something passed at a federal level. Let's use the example of national collective bargaining, which a lot of our members may not appreciate, but there are many, many firefighters throughout the country, especially in the South, that don't have collective bargaining rights. There are firefighters in this country working for minimum wage, doing the same job we do. So, while that is hugely important as an international, again, here in Michigan, we have those rights. We want to protect those rights. So we really do try to focus on in our committee work, educating the members about why it is so important to be involved with your state representatives, your state senators, and the governor. Those are the three big levels on the legislative branch that are
they're most influential to the outcome
Absolutely.
of our wages, working conditions,
and wages, hours, working conditions.
No, you know, one thing that Mike O'Haron, shout out Michael O'Haron,
Hey, Mike.
is that he likes to say wages, hours, and terms and conditions.
There you go.
And I think that's probably a good way to update it, you know?
I like it.
Because terms and conditions covers not only my working conditions, but literally like when I need to be there, what I'm wearing, what I got.
Everything.
It's all the things.
Yes.
You know, so terms and conditions do apply.
And we need to modernize that phrase of wages, hours, working conditions and bring in terms of conditions.
I dig
like it.
Okay, so your committee collects, disseminates information. Our sphere of influence is really in the span of Michigan and what we have more influence over. We're more knowledgeable about what's going on the federal level. We know what's coming maybe from that. It's more of awareness there. Actionable, local and state, we have much more objective say in things to protect what we have or gain maybe what we lost or things
Correct.
that we want in the future.
Absolutely.
Okay, so the first thing your committee is responsible for is getting the information out to the members in the local, the state, and the federal level.
Correct.
The second thing you do is help recruit and retain MPFFU member participation at the local and state political level, meaning when there's action to be taken and we need a group or a voices or calls to be made, action has to happen. Your group is the one that says, hey, everyone, here's what's going on and what we need you to do. Is that correct?
That's correct. We would help frame that message for our local members. We're not expecting our members to become experts in the field. Some will. Some will kind of gravitate to becoming more politically involved, like I did over my 30-year career and be involved at the local level. But other members, we may not need them involved on a daily basis. When we have those key issues that pop up, desperately important to us, we're going to get that message out and we'll send them a script. Call your senator, call your state rep, call the governor's office, send them an email. And we'll craft that message that they basically can fill in the blank to their representative, to the governor with their name on it and say, this issue is important to us.
Right.
Please vote this way. Take this stance. And we'll help frame that message for them. You know, I think the members understand the big picture about the message, but we don't expect everyone to craft their own email or craft their own phone call. We'll help give them that message to take to their elected officials.
Right. Well, quite literally, we're talking about calling people that make decisions that directly affect wages, working hours, and terms and conditions.
That's right.
And then I can't expect thousands of people to be political experts as well as technical rescue experts, EMS experts, firefighter, all the things that we do, right? And now you're going to ask me to pay attention to these commercials? No. It's almost like, where does my organization stand based on what these candidates and people do into the comparison of what the things we want to happen as a union, right?
Exactly.
Cool. Okay, so the call to arms and giving people the background, context, and nuance to express to their politicians in that regard. And then the third thing you guys do is you help raise money to support firefighter issues and support political candidates and support the MPFFU and IFF. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Give us a flyover of what that means.
So for us, it's our PAC fund. It's our MPFFU PAC fund.
All right.
And members can donate on a one-time basis. We prefer, and we are pushing the monthly program.
For those of the don't really understand what a PAC fund is, we may have some younger people who may not gotten into politics yet. The world hasn't hit them yet to the point where they got to get involved, right? So give us the 50,000-foot view of what a PAC fund is real quick.
So a PAC fund is a legally formed entity. Bank account that allows us to collect money from our members that is not part of their union dues. It can't be part of the unions. Right. Those two piles of money.
Specifically donated
for political action.
Okay.
And then we'll collect those funds and put them into that designated account. Those funds can then be used to support candidates who support us.
And so that's the political action. So literally when any PAC, and a PAC is really like a legal term at this point, of any associated group that could put money in of a collective cash to then support political issues.
If the members are watching the news, they'll hear about all these super PACs and these large PACs that have millions and millions, hundreds of millions of dollars behind them to get their candidates elected. Again, bringing it back to the MPFFU, we have a PAC fund established that we use for state-level candidates. That could be starting with the governor, right on down to the state senators and state House of Reps. And then those monies that we, again, collect from our members is designated for that.
Copy that. Okay, we're going to get back to this PAC stuff, but I
Yep.
wanted to really highlight the three primary things. Let's see if we missed any. Number one, gather political information on the landscape of what's going on in our locals as well as in our entire state, and then get eyes on what's going on federally.
Correct.
Share that information, and when action needs to be taken or awareness needs to be highlighted, then that information is shared directly out of your committee.
Yep.
Then the third one, basically facilitate the PAC fund.
Yep. And then I think it's probably in there with part of the education, not to our members, but a big key thing that we're starting with this term, I guess, of this committee, because the committees get reformed, I guess you will, every convention, every 2 years, is also that education to the elected officials at the state level. And that's also key, because obviously we need to educate our members, but we really need to educate the elected officials, especially with term limits and that there's a big turnover.
Right.
So President Saar has tasked this committee with creating a legislative book.
That's a great point. You get a new boss, you got to retrain your people, right?
And so this is something that's probably longer overdue. The international does it. On a larger scale, they can issue this book to the federal legislators, and it really highlights the key issues at the international level. We're taking that same model that's working at the international level and bringing it to the state. So our committee currently is working, we've never had this before, so we're starting from scratch.
Right.
So we're working on creating what we're calling a legislative handbook. And to keep it simple, right, the old KISS method, keep it simple, stupid. Mm-hmm. And so it works good for firefighters and elected officials.
Oh, yeah. And we only have so much time for words.
That's right. So we are trying to focus on, again, our core issues. We'll probably keep it down to 3, 4, maybe 5 of the key elements of what's important to us as firefighters. And we're going to put that in this really easy to read handbook, and it'll explain our core issues. It'll also include any current legislation that's been drafted that might be in committee, that might have already be getting ready to go to the floor to vote on. And that will include those House and Senate bill numbers for the legislators. A good example would be protecting Public Act 312, binding arbitration, because that is a rallying cry of some politicians to get rid of that. And so we want to put that in that book this is why this is important for us to keep it.
Right.
This is why we need binding arbitration for the fire service and for the firefighters. A good example would have been, we didn't have a book, but one of our core issues that were used through our lobbyist was cancer presumption. And we fought for years to get cancer presumption and heart and lung presumption.
Right.
You know, it actually just came up at our district meeting. We do have not only cancer presumption now, but heart and lung presumption. So we want those issues front and center on these elected officials. We want to be able to hand them something with our MPFFU logo on it, front and center. But again, not a large book. This is going to be really a small handbook with at most probably 5 core issues that are going to be important coming into this legislative session.
Right, the big ones, because once you start diluting it, it's going to lose its impact.
Yep.
So it's like, what is your best 5-punch combo?
Correct. Yep.
So 1, it would be maintaining political knowledge, so what's going on. And then 2A is telling our people what to do. 2B is telling the politicians what to do.
Exactly.
3, collecting and disseminating money to protect our best interests at the core issue level.
Yep.
Okay, that frames it good.
Yeah.
Now, you serve essentially, in my opinion, 3 types of people in the spectrum of MPFFU members. We got the new hires, and you got the willing and wanting participants. Those are the people who are probably your e-board officials who've been locked in from day one, very interested. Mm-hmm. We appreciate all of you. A lot of these people are very dedicated to that. And then you have your casual knowledge collector, that person who's, what's going on? I got to vote on something. And whatever either their excuse or their life holds, they don't have the capacity or time to know that information. But essentially, it's those 3 types of people. So how do you assure that you're getting to every one of them?
Well, I don't know if it's getting more outdated or antiquated, but email. We obviously start with email. Right now, one of our big databases is email. We're slowly getting into, maybe not slowly so much, but one of the committees just worked on a TikTok, MPFFU TikTok going. So
shout out Amanda West.
Yeah, so we understand that the face of social media and disseminating information, communication as a whole is changing. For us old guys like me, email.
I'm with you, bro. I'm over 40 now.
Yeah. So, in fact, this podcast is brand new. My kids are probably getting a kick out of a podcast. My dad's doing a podcast,
Right.
And
don't worry, both guys have gray hair.
That's right. So that communication and getting that message out to our members, how do we do? How do we reach them? Not everybody's checking their email or getting their email to their phone like they used to, but everyone has their phone. That is how we're getting to everybody.
Part of my body I could take off every night and put it in the charger.
And so emails and text. Our website, which trying to drive traffic to the website, has a lot of information, but we know people aren't going to websites as much as they used to. But again, just trying to get that message out every 6 months at our district meetings, that face-to-face in-person message. But in that real time, it is still emails, texting. If we can get a text blast out to the members through the IFF Smart platform, they've now made it easier for us to at least blast out those emails in a moment's notice or text. So that's just another form of that. And again, we're getting into TikTok, Instagram.
The Instagram's really growing.
Yeah.
I've been checking that out. I've been working with Scott Ricky and Amanda West. Amanda West is spearing that up. She's killing it on that.
Yep.
Yeah, that's great.
So we know for that next generation, that's where they're going. And the messages have to be shorter, the attention spans, and that, we're working on this long play format here, which is going to be great for the deep dive and getting the information out. But when you're talking about what is the committee tasked with, when an issue comes up, we need to be able to hit them with that 30-second to a minute, 2-minute TikTok, Instagram, and boom, okay, now I know what we need to do.
Yeah. Really the same thing to create content to support your mission like I do is to create a spectrum of things that make sure we hit all the people. Yep. And you're like, well, I got to collect all the information. So it's all the same, but it's all different. We're all playing a role in a position, just like in the fire department.
That's right.
With the chain of command and everything of serving up, serving down. Okay. So you said you are the chair of the committee. Who is your co-chair?
John Newman,
awesome.
East Lansing.
Out of East Lansing, right down the road.
Yeah, right down the road.
Well, it would have been a shorter drive down there.
Yeah, him there. Yeah. And shout out to John.
And you said you got 11 people total, including you?
Yeah, include myself and the vice chair. Just quick glance. There's a good cross-section. Quick glance at our committee. We got people from East Lansing, Southfield, Midland, Dearborn, St. Clair Shores, Clinton Township, Dearborn Heights, Oxford, Rochester, and Hamtramck. So
you got to have a spectrum. It's a political landscape. Everybody, you can't just have one area of the state's point of view. That'd be stupid.
Nope.
I mean, it would be ill-advised. Let's say not stupid, but it'd be stupid.
Yeah.
Okay, so you got all these people that are working very hard. We talked about what you do. There's quarterly meetings. You share the information, email, podcasts, all sorts of fun different ways, social media. We're getting it out there. So, Scott, November's coming.
Winter is coming.
Winter's coming. It's October, which means that a lot of people are getting ready for hunting and turning off their televisions because they're sick of the commercials.
Oh, God.
Yep. So as we're approaching this, it's being a part of the Political Education Committee. I'm sure this gets to be your busy time of year, and then you get to hear a lot of opinions. You get to hear a lot of things.
Oh, yeah.
And so I think it's important right now for us to really compare and contrast personal versus organizational politics, because I think it's unfair to assume that any organization assumes that they just go with one of the parties automatically. There's certainly lots of organizations that do that, but I think it's certainly a good opportunity to frame that the organization has a mission and goals and core issues, and then you have your own personal politics as well. So can you kind of comment on personal versus organizational politics?
Absolutely. This is one of our big messages coming from the committee and from all the MPFFU e-board members as a whole, is that we really do try to drive home the fact that whatever your personal issues you have at home, and there are plenty, we all have them. We all have our personal lives. Work life is not our only life. So we completely understand all of the personal issues that are on the table, from immigration to whatever it is, guns and abortion and everything that's out there. We're seeing fill it in for infinity, right? Those are important to you. We get it. We, though, have to always try to bring it back to our core issues of who are the candidates that are supporting our issues,
right? Like
we touched on before. And the core issues of the MPFFU are, and continue will always be, collective bargaining and all the things that go along with wages, hours, and terms and conditions, which incorporate collective bargaining, arbitration, health and safety, staffing.
You got the list right here. You got the preservation of collective bargaining, protection of Public Act 312, solutions to staffing issues, especially recruitment and retention, fighting to make staffing mandatory subject of bargaining, opposition of any changes to PARA, that's the Public Employment Relations Act, continued funding for cancer presumption, obtain mental health presumption legislation, and fight against public safety officer service delivery model.
Yes, sir.
So it's really to say is, so let's see if I understand this correctly, see if we can translate this to the community. Personal politics are political choices of an individual person, as organizational politics are the political choices and recommendations that favor the goals and objectives of an organization. In this regard, it's everything that protects those things I just listed.
Correct. Back to the political action education. So obviously we're educating our members of why these things are important to us. Either how do we gain some of these things or how do we protect them? It goes back to those elected officials across the street there. And what our members need to understand, we don't just pick someone based on a party like we mentioned before. We actually screen each of these candidates every election cycle. The MPFFU, working with our lobbyists, sends out a candidate questionnaire. We will not vote to endorse or give any money to a candidate who does not answer that questionnaire. And not just answer, but answer it favorably to us. They've got to answer that questionnaire with the right answers for us. If they're not supportive of those issues and they're not willing to put it down in writing in a questionnaire response to us, then they're not getting our endorsement and they're not getting our money. We take that part of it serious. And we don't care what's behind their name in terms of what party they're affiliated with. We send that questionnaire out to everybody that's running. And again, it's up to them to return it if they're looking for our endorsement, our support, and our money.
So that endorsement is an official MPFFU seal of approval, essentially.
Exactly.
You can't just say you endorse it. You're literally saying it went through a process.
Went through a process to make sure that they are willing to put on paper that they support these issues. So
they literally put up a list. Here's the core issues. Do you not like any of these? If so, which one and why?
That questionnaire for all our members is available at our MPFFU website.
Where do I get
Anyone
it?
can view it. Go to the MPFFU website and you'll see candidate questionnaire. Now, you won't see all the answers because they come back, the responses.
Right.
That's all filtered
but
through.
at least you get an opportunity to see
what questions are being asked.
What if I wanted to make, what if I have a better way to sentence that?
Correct.
Could I send you an email?
Absolutely. We are always willing to take that input from the entire membership. While we have 11 members working hard, we don't know it all. And with the strength in numbers. And if there's a brother or sister out there that has a better way to do it, build a better mousetrap, better way to frame that question, or a new issue. Maybe there's a new issue we haven't thought of. Maybe there's something that we've left off on that questionnaire. Please, we encourage it. We encourage that involvement.
That's good to hear because when you're closed off to the information you're trying to collect, it doesn't create trust. And this organization is all about trust.
Yep.
Awesome. Okay, so endorsement is that official saying of, hey, this official represents our core issues the best. We've talked about what those core issues are. And then your committee also has a PAC fund to collect and disseminate money to help candidates get elected that support those core issues. So essentially, as we're collecting money to try to get those core issues protected or passed.
Correct.
All right. So we've already talked about the PAC fund and what it is. So essentially, it's a way to collect that money and then distribute it out to political officials that we want to get elected, either reelected or elected, that are protecting our core issues. We covered the why. Now, how should I or my local put money in that account? What's the physical mechanics of that? Is there a Venmo?
No Venmo yet, but there is a link, again, at the MPFU website. We encourage all our members to log in and be a part of that website. There's a link right on the homepage. Actually, in a letter that went out to all members this fall, there's a link directly to the PAC fund. Check your emails.
Yeah, I remember seeing this email. It went out there, and it kind of described it because it's a new thing. And let's face it, politics is just under religion, and let's have conversations. It's just as fun to get into sometimes because it goes directly to the individual.
Yep.
Rarely does it just stay to the organization, no matter what the organization is. Kind of give us a flyover.
Yeah, flyover the email, which eventually was about the same thing we're talking about today. And I can hit the highlights is that we want to encourage our members, our brothers and sisters, to contribute to the Political Action Fund. That is, again, the key behind all the politicians getting these friendly politicians elected is money. Money is the lifeblood of politics, and we need money. We need a lot more of it. And we're proud to ask for it because we want to support these candidates. And again, the theme is we endorse candidates that support our core issues. And again, this money has to come from voluntary contributions from the individual members. We can't take it out of your union dues. And the ways that we get it is on these links. It's very easy now to do. It can come right off your credit card every month. You can do monthly donations as little as $5 a month. Just imagine if every one of our 4,000 members, just under 4,000 members, donated $5 a month.
What if I just want to do $10 once?
You can do a one-time donation as well. It's set up there, the links. There's different links once you get to the PAC Fund donation site there. You can do a one-time donation, and we encourage you to pull a reminder so you do it every year. Or you can have it set up to automatically pull out every month. And so $5, $10 a month is not a big ask for what these funds help provide in the long run. I know it seems like a reach to get from, hey, I'm donating these $5, but in the end, brothers and sisters with a heart and lung issue or cancer who are now benefiting from cancer presumption legislation that took years to get for us helping elect firefighter-friendly candidates who support our core issues. Didn't happen by accident. So then again, there'll be the website where, hey, not only can I donate money to this great cause, but now I can also show people that I'm supporting that cause. I can show my fellow brothers and sisters. I can throw on a T-shirt, a polo that talks about the PAC Fund. It has a little PAC Fund love on it, and it might inspire someone else to donate, and a little bit of pride and ownership that, hey, I'm part of this bigger organization, the shared belief and the shared camaraderie. And that's where the camaraderie, and like we said, the T-shirts, the hats, and all that does come into play. But behind it is the money.
Right. And where does the money go?
Money goes into our PAC fund, into that separate account the MPFU manages. And then the e-board, once we filter through that endorsement process, Then the MPFFU Executive Board then votes on those endorsements. And then we, again, working with our lobbyists, decide where that money that we've collected needs to go. Where are those key races? Where are the people that need the money the most? Because with so many races, we don't have enough money to give to everybody that we endorse. So we have to filter that down even further to focus on the key races that we're in a position to win and maybe flip those seats from unfavorable candidates to favorable candidates.
Okay, so to kind of recap that, the PAC fund is a mechanism that's going to allow you to collect that money and distribute it. It's collected through donations. You can even get T-shirts and swag where a portion of that's coming directly to that PAC fund as well. You can go to the mpffu.org for that. And then that money is distributed by the MPFFU's executive committee. There's basically a list of people that we've selected and been pre-approved by the MPFFU Political Education Committee to say yes or no, we like you or don't like you based on your protection or gain of our core issues. And then from there, that's really it.
That's it. Then they get a check.
They give them based on, which is commensurate to what we're trying to get achieved there and what they're trying to accomplish, which is a higher level in politics, the more money you're going to need.
We are still one of the, if not the number one, viewed favorably organizations out there across the country. People ask who's your most trusted profession. Firefighters always still right at the top. So when President Saar is able to go to these elected officials, it's great that they want our endorsement, they want our name, but then he's also to hand them a check to really show that support. Now that allows them to buy the airtime, buy their own advertising time, and help support them to really get to the finish line. So then when they do get elected and they're back in chambers, now we've got that in. Now that we've not only showed up and shook their hands and given them our support, we've given them money. And so it is what can you do for me? Right. So if we're working for them and working with them to get them elected, we expect them to honor their commitment that they made in those surveys and those responses to continue to support our core issues.
Fair enough. All right, so the Political Education Committee, we've covered that. Let's describe how MPFFU members can get informed, educated, and or directly involved with the MPFFU mission and its goals. Not specifically for just politics, just in general. Closing us out, what do you think?
So in general, to be a better member. The Be a Better Member campaign is attend your local meetings. Number one, attend every local meeting you can. Obviously, I'd say attend them all, but I know it may not be physically possible, but get to as many meetings as you can. Ask a lot of questions. Be a good listener, but then ask questions of your local executive board. Once you feel comfortable, run for a local executive board position. You always need people involved. If you're not on the board, there's plenty of things to do at each local to be involved. Maybe there's a political education committee within your own local. Some larger locals have their own PAC fund. They have their own political education committee within their local. But again, attend your local meetings. Just find out who your elected officials are. So many of our own members, even in the whole local, couldn't even name who their mayor is or council people, who their elected officials are that are making decisions on their contract. So at least know their names, go to a council meeting or a township board meeting, whatever community you live in, whether it's a council meeting, township board meeting, attend those meetings. Just show up and wear your logo shirt, wear your off-duty union shirt. Let them know that they're there, you're listening, you're watching. That really goes a long way. People would be surprised at the local level what an impact just attending a local township board council meeting makes. And I would encourage all our local e-boards to send people to those meetings on a regular basis. It doesn't even have to be all the e-board members. It's great when the e-board members that have more interaction with those elected officials are there, but just having general members show up and sit in the audience and then at the end go up and say hello, shake a hand, and just that interaction, them knowing you're there. Again, so your local union meetings, your local council and township board meetings is a great place to start and getting to know those elected officials right in your home community.
Yeah, I think it's really important to understand your local politics because that's your biggest sphere of influence is where you're working all the time. All right, what about things like Fire Ops 101?
So Fire Ops, you may hear about it. A great program, international started. So Fire Ops 101 is basically where the community or communities of number of unions may get together and bring in local officials for the day. They may bring them into their station or they may go to one of the local training centers that are out there and they'll actually put them in fire gear. They'll take them usually through anywhere from 3 to 6 hours. They'll have a meal in there, but they put the local elected officials basically through a one-day training evolution. Maybe they'll start out with some EMS calls. They'll teach them CPR. They'll get them on the mannequins. They'll show them some EMS stuff. Then they'll move them up and to get them into firefighter gear.
Just a taste.
Yes.
Just a taste of what
Just a taste of everything because you want to have that broad spectrum.
Yeah.
Then they'll put them in gear. And depending on the age and health of those elected officials, we have to be careful. Those Fire Ops 101s are putting them
Firemen
in
kill mayor.
Yeah, they're putting them not only in gear, but on air. There's been some recent where the guys are in here going through the live burn centers. So they're breathing air, so they got to have a crash course in wearing a mask and putting their gear on. Then they're operating the jaws, they're cutting up cars. Again, it's all age and health based. Climbing ladders, doing simulated rescues, going through the live burn trailers.
For lack of a better term, literally walking in their shoes for the day.
Walking in their shoes. It is life-changing for those elected officials. Yeah. In fact, there's a story was just done recently on Channel 4, Oakland County.
It was the Oakway Fire Department.
Oakway Fire Department, great. So a number of communities got together, I think, and put that on. A great job to those local brothers and sisters that did that. The news story that I want people to take away is the comments coming from the elected officials when they came out of there. You can tell it was very eye-opening and life-changing. And so those things are what they are left with when now they are sitting on the other side of the table deciding on those contracts. It really leaves a lasting message for those elected officials. Now, that would be next level stuff, like I said, but even before a full fire ops, and we've done it in my home local Roseville, invite those elected officials in for lunch, for dinner, and give them a brief tour. You know, you may not even be able to do the ride-alongs. Some communities have different rules on that. But if they can stop in for lunch, invite them in for lunch. And I know they can't all come in at once, but you bring one or two at a time is a great way for them to get to know you on a both professional and personal level, and make sure they leave with something. And so if you are going to do that, we want them to leave with something that they're going to remember. Roseville had Senator Paul Voino in last year, and we created a special Roseville commemorative badge for him,
right on,
and a T-shirt and a hat. We had one of our newly elected officials in Roseville to stop by impromptu after a parade or something. We made sure he left with a T-shirt or two for his family, because you want them to always have something at home that reminds them of the fire department and their interaction with the fire department.
Right.
So make sure you have some of that union gear for them to take after they leave, with a better understanding of the fire department and what we do, that there's something that's long lasting. And it could be something, like I said, as simple as a T-shirt or a hat, or you could get a badge made for them. You can get a helmet for them as you progress and get more advanced. It's great for them to have that to look at every time they come home or at their office.
All right, Scott, thank you very much. I think we covered everything.
We did, and then some.
And then some.
It's been
always
great, man.
All right, sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jeff. Great job.
And cut. That is all for the show today, everyone. Thank you to Scott Bala for joining me on this episode of the MPFFU podcast. Remember, this is only our third podcast episode, and there is always room to improve, so please email us your feedback and tell us what you think about the show, or send us ideas for future episodes to mpffupodcast@gmail.com. Also, check out the new MPFFU Instagram at m.p.f.f.u. And finally, please subscribe and like our YouTube channel and videos. Thank you for listening to the MPFFU podcast. Have a great day.